Every now and then, I like to take a look at the free visual novel section on Steam, and yes, there is not much good there. But you know, after weaving through all the piles of porn and untranslated Chinese visual novels that frankly intimidate me, you'll occasionally find a gem. That's how I found Mo Era and Killer Love, which literally plunged me into the genre itself. Whilst these days I typically play high-budget translated Japanese visual novels, I still like to go back and give lower-budget visual novels a try. And this may be one of my most favorite free visual novels to date. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to find love, or probably die trying.
それは違うと思うよ。もう殺すわよ。
じゃあバトルスタート。
かっこいい。もしかしてスキャンダル冗談なのか。そうだけど。
English-made visual novels are frankly not very existent in the visual novel community. They may very well deserve to be, but many problems prevent this from being so. The first of which being that visual novels are much more popular in Japan, which leads to Japanese-made visual novels being the focus of the genre, for which finally are translated to English, hopefully not as an afterthought. And the other problem is visual novels are just not very popular in the English sphere of gamers. I mean, in some sense, we were lucky that Doki Doki Literature Club got so much popularity because it probably brought a lot of people into the genre, but for the most part this genre does not get a lot of spotlight. But since visual novels are not too popular here, English-made visual novels typically will either have a very low budget or no budget at all, probably coming from the creator's pockets. And this game is not really an exception. Half the music is from Kevin MacLeod, which to be fair, I can't.
それは違うよ。
さよなら。
I can't
それは違うと思うよ。
critique. There is no voice acting, and the writing didn't feel like it was anything exceptional. Now that is not to say there's not anything good about this visual novel. The art is frankly amazing, and for the price of free, it's hard to feel bad about giving this visual novel a try. That's it, there's a review. Don't watch the rest of the video. And honestly, I highly recommend it. I'll give you a more detailed review soon, but I'll be talking about the story for a bit, so please skip this section if you feel even a slight urge to play this game. The story begins with our protagonist waking up in an unknown room, completely clueless as to where he is. A woman named Kat confronts us to tell us we've been chosen to participate in a live dating show named Find Love or Die Trying, for which the final objective of the game is to ask one of the 5 girls to marry us. Of course, those same girls don't know that if they decline, that we'll be killed. We will also be killed if the show ratings are too low, so that's neat. Our protagonist, now named the great and unstoppable BruceGoneLoose the 17th, sets out determined to survive based on the rules imposed on us. We briefly meet the director Damien, who clearly doesn't look like the type who would kick puppies for fun, and move on to the other cast of the dating show. The girls we can date, the datees, if that's a word, and what delightful and dazzling girls they happen to be. Yui is the first one, and we are immediately told that she is a childhood friend, but we don't remember because again, that memory loss thing sucks. As for Yui herself, oh, did I mention that memory loss thing? I probably didn't. Yeah, we don't have her memories. As for Yui herself, we learn she's a country girl who is good with animals. Violet, whilst initially cold and intimidating, soon emits princess-like qualities and will possibly entice you with her passion for baking. Tara, the gamer girl who, yeah, it's mostly gaming with this one. My favorite part is how she literally develops a hybrid game between Stardew Valley and Love Alternative. Scarlet, whom I assumed I would hate, became one of my favorite characters due to her being a scientist who'd conjure insane situations, and Allie, who is both rebellious, eccentric, and dangerous for your health. The initial plot of Find Love or Die Trying has your protagonist choose 2 main girls to focus on. Obviously, I chose the ones who emitted best girl qualities, Yui and Violet. The dates would essentially revolve around the girl in question's qualities, for which I mostly just explained. Yui's dates would be outside and reminiscing, and at one point she said a line which really had me hoping she'd go yandere, but that never really happens. Violet's dates would typically just involve baking. Kat questions you constantly and gives you tips to help achieve success. Sometimes when you sleep, you'd also get unknown memories of the past that sort of sound like it could be any of the girls, but it was obviously trying to throw you for a loop, and I figured it would be Kat. Though that thought can be put on hold because after your final date with your final girl, the sky turns purple for some reason, and you are both restrained and taken to an underground laboratory. Kat sees you off, and you presumably die, or at least you think you would, because that's half of what both the in-game and, real-life game are about, but it seems like your memories are just wiped. And if the entire plot of the game isn't probably obvious to you now, well, Anyway, this time you have to date 3 girls 2 times, being forced to pick the ones you hadn't. This is obviously just to force you to experience the other girls' content, but it's not like I would have done so anyway. Scarlett's dates are mostly focused on her zany personality and her abilities as a scientist, at one point literally turning the main cast into zombies. Tara's date should be obvious, but she also delves into game development, making a Stardew Valley clone with mechs that sounds pretty cool. And finally, Allie's dates are harmful, but she also takes us out of the recording zone via an airplane she found and stole to tell us that she knows what is going on the island, and there's a lot more than things seem, which I guess we already knew. Of course, in the end, things end up the same, and you are taken to the basement to again have your memories wiped, which is now obviously what's happening. However, Allie manages to escape her tube to adjust the system a bit to allow you to regain some of your memories before the evil duo return, and now you once again go through the dating show one last time, but not before conspiring with Allie to escape. An important side note is that Allie originally came on this show as a spy from the anti-government faction. It seems like the world on the outside is at war and the government uses shows like Find Love or Die Trying as propaganda to keep civilians in line. Eventually, through complicated planning procedure and Bun Bun, the main protagonist and Allie get the key to the lab and give the other girls their memories back. Of course, they still have to feign ignorance as the show progresses, but slowly plan an escape plan. Some girls learn about how they ended up in this situation, which affects some more than others, but after clearing up some issues, the escape plan meets its head when on Allie's date you attempt to run to the hangar with the rest of the main cast to escape. Unfortunately, we find the hangar in flames and a sinister cat who informs us that she knew about the plan all along and that it was pointless anyway because any unauthorized vehicles that would try to leave the island would be destroyed on impact with a barrier they had set up. In a way, Cat had basically saved the lives of our cast while still seeming like the bad guy, which is kinda sad for Cat. The main cast meets back in the lab along with Cat, whom now everyone decidedly hates. However, somewhat unexpectedly, she declares that she wants to join in on your escape and wants to escape the island for someone's sake. Eventually, we trust her, and we begin to formulate a plan involving stealing the supply ship and disabling the device that'll destroy the vehicle on impact with the barrier, since Cat has that knowledge. With Scarlett's zombifying powers, they successfully manage to dupe all of the staff, but the man who probably flushes harmless caterpillars down the toilet, Damien, foils the plan by summoning a giant metal wall around the area and declares that they can escape if they can successfully get the switch from him. Kat insists on going, but she also needs to bring us along too, and then the finale begins. We get there, and Damien chases us around with a gun, toying with our feelings due to all the fake guns lying around. However, Kat eventually finds the real one, and then Damien makes a final offer. One of us can kill the other, and the other can escape. Or we kill him. You do get to decide at this point, but choosing to kill Kat leads to like a 30-second long bad end of sorts. Otherwise, you decide to go kill dumb dickhead Damien, and whilst Kat successfully kills Damien, you and Kat end up extremely wounded, and you go lower the wall, which requires 2 people with producer-level administration to implement. Yes, the dreams were not fake, and you and Kat were once the producers in love who tried to escape. However, since the attempt was gonna fail, you let her shoot you and make it look like she captured you, so she would be punished by the world's worst dad, Damien. Yeah, she was Kat's father, by the way, which makes everything kinda cruel. The others come to the rescue, and you successfully escape on the boat, with Kat and you on bed rest due to your injuries. There are 6 short endings, and they all amount to the same thing. You choose who you love in the end. I did them all, and I think Kat's ending is probably the true ending to many, but I think in the end, for me, it has to be Scarlett. I like this story. I think the idea of being stuck in death games like this is extremely appealing to audiences, and this is exactly why games like Danganronpa, Zero Escape, and Euphoria, amongst others, are popular, though one of those things is not like the other. The dream sequences I found weren't particularly obvious, but not particularly blatant either, so they can certainly help push the player in the right direction. I really wish for Allie, her role as a secret spy, and the world outside were expanded more in this game. I know that's not the focus, but it seems like there are some interesting things happening somewhere else that is not this island where Damien's doo-doo corpse resides. But I'll talk more about this in the next section, spoiler free, so like half the video isn't me just explaining the story. I love this game, honestly. Visual novels like this are fun to experience because it drip feeds you information that you can use to come up with theories to solve the mystery in the end. The world shown in Find Love or Die Trying certainly had a lot of potential when you begin the game, and in some ways it lives up to it, but in other ways I'm not so sure. The characters are my biggest problem with this visual novel. Whilst I like their personality differences, I could never get past the feeling of a character being clearly written by the developer instead of forgetting about that and just enjoying the character. Maybe it's just me, but it felt worth mentioning. Most likely this is due to the length, which also feels admittedly short. However, at some points it felt too long. I'll explain this in a second. Danganronpa is an extremely long game, but it makes you learn about all the characters, what they like, how they react, stuff like that, and with hour-long events and class trials, you slowly become attached to these characters as you solve the mysteries that feel earned. With this game, I think the overall mystery is a bit too obvious too quickly. It doesn't have enough time to build up the characters to make me really care about them, and once you get to the end of the first chapter of sorts, you feel like you've been given enough information that you want the answers now, but you still have to go through an even longer second part before the story really starts picking up. The story drags out without developing the characters more, so it's both too short and too long, which is kind of weird, right? The game references the outside world of where the main game takes place, and it sounds really interesting, honestly. The dev had said he'll do character stories too, so I hope for one specific character where we get to learn about this world because it seems really cool. The best character for me might be Damien, and this may sound a bit odd due to how much I kind of shat on him in my story summary, but that's exactly why. Through both art and writing, this character immediately emanates evil energy, so even in such a short game like this, he can really make you feel emotions, whereas the other characters may not. Those emotions may be irrational anger, but nonetheless. And that's not a spoiler. I mean, look at this guy. If you think he could get a redemption arc, then you probably are insane. I usually don't reserve an entire section for this, but come on, game. I need more than this. 3 isn't enough, even if I don't need them. I like to click and make a picture appear everywhere. It's fun, let me do that. The visual novel doesn't have much for settings either, which I guess is fine in a more minimalistic visual novel where there are no voices and music, but it just feels wrong. The game also does this whenever you look at previous text, which really annoys me. It's not really that big of a bug, but it happens frequently and I notice it every time. I'm blaming Unity. It's Unity's fault. The developer said somewhere, I think, that they had music composed for this game, but I also hear Kevin MacLeod soundtracks here. I don't really have an issue with that. Music is expensive, and artists deserve it, sure, but this dude released a free game with amazing art, so he is probably already in the hole by a lot, so by all means use free music. But I swear to God, this game fully fucks with me because it not only uses this theme's intro, but it also uses the other intro, and it only uses that one once, only once. It didn't have to do it, but it did. And there is a part of Tara's date where she develops some Stardew Valley clone of mechs, and my friends and I had an idea like this around a year ago, so it seems surreal. I mean, I know it's not really too much of a unique idea, but still, if this game is a $1,000 attempt to fuck with me by one of my friends, well, that would be crazy. P.S. favorite track is definitely Yui's theme. I said the art is fantastic, at least somewhere in this video, so I'll leave it at that. For the price of free, the only thing you can lose is your time, and it's generally pretty worth it. The developer was inspired by Katawa Shoujo, which probably influenced the price, but in general doesn't stand up to it. But this visual novel is not like Katawa Shoujo in its goal, nor its length, and that is very important, because it makes it a lot more digestible to newer readers than taking up a 30-hour monster like Katawa Shoujo. And because of that, instead of recommending first-time readers Moe Era and Lucid 9, I will now be recommending first-time readers Moe Era, Lucid 9, and Find Love or Die Trying. Somehow this video ended up being like 5 pages long, so holy moly. If you're still here, thanks so much for watching. If you missed my video that I recently did, you can find it here. And of course, like, comment, and subscribe. Tara wants you to do that, so you would not do it, would you? She's always watching. Just as am I. See you next week.